In this lesson, we're going to factor to solve equations with squares. In yesterday's lesson, we factored trinomials that just had the one variable. Notice how we have an r squared, an rs, and then an s squared for the third term there. So we're going to factor these trinomials by we're going to factor out two binomials. And so again, we're filling in these binomials. So I need to look at what made up this r squared. And remember, r times r would make our r squared. Now for our second term in the binomials, we would have an s, but then we'll also have a number before that. And so let's go ahead and do the factors of 50. So we're looking for our factors, and there's lots of factors for 50. So let's go ahead and take a look at that 15. And I know that then 5 times 10, I could make 15 out of that when I add those two together. So I'm going to then come and I'll put next to my s, then I'll have a 5 and I'll have a 10. And because I was making a positive 15rs, then I know that 5 plus 10 is going to be equal to then 15, so I'm going to put pluses in both of these. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that would look like. So if I were to then FOIL my trinomial, I'd have r times r, which is r squared. I would have my r times my 10s, and I would have plus 10rs, and then I'm going to have plus 5rs, and then finally I'll have then 50s squared. So then we would simplify that to r squared plus 15rs plus 50s squared. And then notice that that is what we had started with. So our factored form here then is this right here. All right, so for number 2, I have x squared minus 4xy plus 4y squared. So again, we're going to factor this into two binomials, and I'll start with my x, and then I know that I'm going to have something y for my second one there. And so let's take a look then at the factors of 4. We could have our 1 times 4. I could have my 2 times 2, and that should be it. All right, so we need to make then a negative 4xy. So I will want my 2's, because we know that a negative 2 plus a negative 2 is going to be equal to negative 4. And notice then I had a positive 4y squared. So instead of having pluses here, I'm going to have a minus 2 here and a minus 2 here, because these two negatives made that positive 4, and when I added together negative 2xy plus negative 2xy, then I get that negative 4xy. So my factored form here then is this piece right here. All right, so let's factor again. I'm going to have an m and an m, and I know I'm going to have n's here. So then my factors of 42, let's see here. All right, I'm trying to make a negative 1mn. So let's try the factors 6 times 7. All right, and negative 42 right here, and then I have a negative here. So, all right, let's place our 6 and our 7. I'm going to have a 6, and I'm going to have a 7. And now this is going to be equal to 6mn, and then this right here would have equaled 7mn. So now I need to have a negative 1. So in order to get that negative 1, because you know 1 is going to be positive and 1 is going to be negative because we have that negative 42, we need this to be negative so that I can have a negative mn when I add those together. So we're going to then make this the negative, and we'll make this one the positive. And so right here is our factored form. All right, for number 4, we have c squared minus 25d squared. And so now notice what this one's missing is that it does not have the middle term there. It doesn't have a CD. So really what it has is we could kind of say it was like plus 0 CD. So when we're looking at what factors to use, let's come back and look at that. So our first term in the binomials, we're going to have a C, and then we know it's going to be a D. Now let's take a look at the factors, and the factors of 25 are 1 times 25 and 5 times 5. Right now, I know I can't make a 0 with 1 and 25, but I could make a 0 with the 5 and the 5, because I could have one that's positive and then one that's negative. And notice here too, I was trying to make a negative 25. So I'm going to have a 5 and a 5, and one of them is going to be positive and one of them is going to be negative. So when we went and we multiplied then these terms right here, I would have had like a negative 5CD, and then when I multiplied this, I would have had a positive 5CD. And notice how they canceled out, giving me back to the C squared minus 25D squared. And we're going to talk more about these types in a future lesson. So here's our factored form.